Well, I've got a fantastic looking engine here that was made in the Czech Republic. Now this, I believe it's a 3.5cc engine, and it's, as you'll see in a second, it's a diesel engine, and it was given to me, donated to the channel by a really good friend, Jeff, and I am really grateful because I do absolutely love this engine. As I said, it was made in the Czech Republic, and it was made by a gentleman called Václav Stejskal. I may be pronouncing that wrong, so my apologies to anybody who recognises my poor pronunciation. But it's an absolutely lovely engine. It's really well made, and it came out in the mid 1960s. Now, if you have a look at this advert, this is from 1965 from Model Air magazine, a Czech Republic aero modelling magazine, and you can see this engine was made in 4 different size designations, from 0.5cc right the way up to what I believe is the 3.5cc. And here's a second advert, which same magazine but 1965, so just a year later, and again same size designations, and actually there's a couple of different engines on that advert. So what I need to do though, because I really want to get this in the test stand, I think this is going to run so nice, but I need to make a new spray bar and a new needle for that spray bar, because the ones that are in here are just wholly inappropriate and don't work. So I'll tell you what, let's take a closer look at this, and I'll show you why they're not right, and then we'll get on the lathe and we'll make a spray bar. I think it'd be nice if we could make the spray bar and the needle in this video, but I suspect I may not have time, and we'll just do the spray bar and then the needle another day. But we'll see how we get on anyway. Well, here we have this lovely Mikro engine, as I said, made in the Czech Republic in the mid-60s, and I love everything about this engine. Right from the compression screw down. I mean, look at that compression screw. It's just a lovely shape, very purposeful, and different to the kind of the standard kind of Tommy bar that you get. You've got a lock on the top, and then you've got this absolutely gorgeous head. I just love this polished head, the way it sweeps in, the thickness of the fins with the thicker top of wire. It just, to me, it's just absolutely gorgeous. You've got what I can only describe as muscles on the side here, which accommodate the screws to hold the head down. I just, like I say, I just think it looks absolutely lovely. Now, we've got a spray bar in here, but it doesn't work. It's not appropriate, and the actual needle doesn't fit itself. It just pushes on and off, so it's a different thread to the bar. The bar has been broken, and you can see it's too short, so it wouldn't work anyway. I mean, if you push the needle fully in and blow through a hose or a piece of tubing on that side, it doesn't shut it off, so it's not working either. I did wonder if this was the original spray bar and somebody just used an inappropriate needle, until I realised that the thread of this spray bar is actually a British Association thread, so a BA thread, and I can't imagine for a second that anybody in the Czech Republic making engines will be using BA threads. It's entirely a British thread, so it just, yeah, so those are wrong. Now, I've also seen pictures, and in those adverts you could see, but it wasn't very clear, that there's actually a bit of an aluminium spinner nut. So I'm going to sort out those better pictures and we'll have a look at that so we can make up a spinner nut for that. But it's just a lovely engine. I know I'm sort of going on about this, but I just really do think it's very, very stylish, and I love the shine on it, which I think is totally original. Now, having determined that no part of this spray bar and needle actually belonged to this engine, I tried to find online some decent pictures so I could replicate it, because I want to try and make something that's authentic, that looks as it should do, as it would have been. Couldn't find anything online, but my very good friend Peter Valchek has got one of these engines, which kind of didn't surprise me because he has quite an interesting varied collection, and being such a kind person, he provided me some really very detailed and precise drawings of what this needle valve and spray bar should look like. So thanks, Peter. I really do appreciate your input with this, because I couldn't have got the information from anywhere else, I'm sure. So I'm going to get the lathe out now and we'll get that spray bar made. Right, well, I've got some 6mm hexagonal brass which I'm going to use for the nut to hold the spray bar in place, so we'll be making a nut later. And I've got some 6mm round brass which I'm going to use to actually turn the spray bar. There's no hexagonal on the spray bar, it's just got a round end where the nipple is for the fuel hose. So I'll get this cut down a little bit, we'll get it in the lathe, and the first thing I'm going to do is get the threaded portion of the spray bar done and get it drilled out, I think. Anyway, I'll get that cut to size. And actually I should just say, I've just been looking at some other pictures, and I said about making a spinner nut for this. It's not actually a spinner nut, it's more of a thick coned aluminium washer, I think, but we'll see that later on. But I just thought I'd correct that. So I'll get this cut up and we'll get on. Right, we've got the brass in the lathe, I've got a tailstock in. Luckily enough there was already a centre hole in the end and it had been turned down a little bit before. But what we're going to do is take this down now, ready for the 3.5mm thread, M3.5. And we'll get that threaded and then we'll turn down the centre section, we'll flip it over, and then we can do the nipple on the other end. It sounds simple when you say it quickly. Right, well I've got this turned down now to the right diameter to thread it for M3.5, and I need to put 12mm of thread on there, and hopefully you can see just a little bit of a black line there where I want to thread this to. So we'll get this done now. I've put just a little bit of taking the edge off, a little bit of a chamfer on there with a file, just to help get this started. So, but it should tap really nice, or thread really nice. Not tap, should thread really nice. And then we can drill the hole down the centre. I wanted to get this tapped first, before I weaken it by drilling it. So let's get this done. You can see I'm using the tailstock here just to keep it nice and square, and I'm just kind of winding that in a bit. Now let's have a look. Can we get rid of the tailstock yet? There we go. That's lovely. Just taking the die off now, and that's produced a lovely thread. I really do like working with brass. Not as hard as steel, harder than aluminium, and it just machines absolutely lovely. There we go. And I think this is just very slightly over, which is fine, because maybe 0.5mm over, because now we need to turn down this central section. Well, I'm going to drill that and then we'll turn down this central section. Actually, maybe I'll turn down that central section first and then I'll get that drilled. I think that's probably the best thing. I'll get this end support back in, so we can just make sure we've got the best protection for it while we're while we're machining, because the last thing we want to do at this stage is there we go, is bend it. So let's get this set up again. Right, well, we've got this machine down now, and what I need to do is run this 1mm drill right the way through this, or at least as far as it goes, so when we turn it round it'll be out the other side of where the nipple is. We're then going to counter bore it about, well, over halfway to where the hole in the spray bar is for the fuel to come out, and we're going to do that at 1.5mm, so it'll be slightly bigger. The needle will be 1.5, and then the point of the needle will fit into the 1mm hole, and that's where the metering will be done, as it just goes in and out of that smaller hole. So I've got this really nice long drill in here, which I'm actually quite fond of, so I'm hoping that it will all go okay. And at the end of the day, we're just going to do this in small bits and keep clearing it, pulling out, clearing it. It's already got a little bit of a hole for a few mil, because this was a piece of brass that had been used for something else, but that's fine. How far does it go? There we go. So it's about 4 or 5 mil, but I mean, that's to our advantage, that's no problem at all. So let's get this drilled. It's funny because when you look at this, it almost looks like it's off centre, but I don't think it is. I think it's just the thread that makes it kind of look like that as it's spiralling round. But this is drilling okay. Right, now I'm just going to run this back in once more, and then we're done with this this 1mm drill, which is a relief. It's gone really well. I haven't had any issues, but I've just been pulling it back out every couple of mil. There we go. That is now going to do me, and we'll counter bore this with a 1.5mm. Like I said, just to take it in, so it's just past the centre point here, the bit in the venturi where the hole's going to be drilled for the fuel to come out. Right, I've now got this drilled out to 1.5, counter drilled, and I've got a piece of music wire. I'll probably use a piece a bit longer than this for the needle valve, but that now is a really nice snug fit in there, and that must hopefully go all the way down to the centre line. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. So that should work out just right. So what I need to do now is have a think about this and make sure that I've done everything I need to do before I actually take it out this 3 jaw. And I think what I'm going to do is turn it round and hold it in a collet. We've got this section here which will actually go into the crankcase, so it'll just fit in that hole there. It'll be a nice snug fit, and then we've got the spray bar bit across the middle. Now I'm hoping to hold that in a collet, so I can just turn a little bit of a shank on here, turn it down, and then a nipple on the end. So we're almost there now, and I'm really pleased with how this is looking. Right, well, I've now got this out of the lathe and it's looking really good. It's I'm being careful with it because it won't be that strong, I guess, particularly with this narrow section down the middle, but I'm really pleased with how it's looking. And I've trimmed off the excess here so we don't have to do too unnecessary machining. Now I'm going to try this in the engine, but I've cleaned it really well with a toothbrush on the outside and blown it out and just made sure there's no swarf on the inside, because the last thing I want to be doing is introducing swarf into my engine's venturi. But that just slots in there really nicely, and if I bring that in, hopefully that's in focus, you can see just that narrow section of the spray bar there, and if I pull that back you can see. And so I'm really pleased with that. All we need to do now is add sort of machine a nipple on this end. So what I'm going to be doing is getting this in a collet, facing off this end, and then holding that in a centre so we can machine this. It probably doesn't need a centre, but I'd hate to bend it or damage it at this stage. And I think it is quite a fragile spray bar with this very narrow section in the middle. So, like I say, I've got a collet in. Now I'm going to be working very close to the chuck, so we'll need to need to be careful, but that's fine. We often do. So I'll crack on and start to machine this up. Right, well, I've got this set up now. I've reduced this bit here a little bit where the nipple's going to go, and now I just need to turn this bit down, the bit closest to the collet, take it in. I think I need to take it into about just under 3 mil and then bring it out to the nipple. So I have to be so careful with this, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Be nice and clear there. Just take it steady in very small cuts, and as you can see I've got it supported, which actually might get in the way at some point, but if it does we'll deal with it. Well, we can see that this is almost done now, and I'm just going to put an angle on this end bit to create the nipple. I may shorten it as well, but I'm going to be taking the smallest of cuts possible because I really don't want to damage this. And we've done this neck down here as well. Maybe I should have done the nipple first, but I just wanted, for kind of perspective if you like, to see how it looks. I wanted to do that that bit I've just done first. So anyway, let's get this done. There we go. I think that is done. Let's have a look. Bit of hose. Oh, that looks nice. I'm pleased with that. I think that is it. I might just get my very fine jewellery file and just take off that sharp corner there where we've been machining it, but I think this is done. Right, well there, we've got that out the collet chuck now, and I'm so excited to get that done, and I think it looks just what we need for this engine, and so grateful to Peter for providing the information for this. Now there's one last thing we need to do. We need to, just after a pointer, here we go, we need to put a central hole in there for the fuel to come out of, and we also need to make a nut. Now I'm at the lathe now, so I'm going to get the nut made out of this hexagonal bar, and then I'll set up the mill and we'll put in that that hole for the fuel to come out into the Venturi. Now I had been hoping that I would get the needle done in this video, but this is quite involved, and this video is getting long enough, so I think it's better to split the two because there is quite a lot involved in making a needle. So I'll get on and get this spray bar finished. Right, well, making nuts is fairly simple. I've got this hexagonal 6mm bar in the lathe, and I've actually just chamfered the corners there. I did it with a file and just took off the corners. Now, just a bit about nuts. You can get nuts that are single chamfered or double chamfered. Now, this has got a chamfer on this side. If we put a chamfer on the other side of the nut, so it's both sides, that's a double chamfered. What we're going to do is make a single chamfered nut. So this back edge here, we'll just part it off and it'll just be straight. It won't have these corners taken off. The idea is that with single chamfered nuts, the straight sort of cut edge on the back has a better grip on things, and I think this is what the original would have been like on this engine, it would have been single chamfered. So I'm going to do it like that, and it's kind of relatively, or a little bit easier, it's slightly less work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to drill this out and get this tapped at 3.5mm M3.5, and then we can just part that off, easy enough. That tap's absolutely lovely. I do like working with brass. Right, well, I've got this parted now to the right thickness. I started a little bit wide and then just gradually came down to what it needed to be. So we'll get this cut off now. And there we have our nut. So I'll get this cleaned up just with a bit of wet and dry just on that back edge. Right, well, we've got the spray bar now more or less finished, and also got a nut done, and I'm pleased with how they're looking. And as I said, you can see the chamfer on that side but not on that side. So what I've done now is I've cleaned them up, and they are scrupulously clean, so I'm not going to get any bits of swarf inside the engine. And what I'm going to do is just put this nut on, and there we go, just tighten that up, and you can see now that is looking really nice in there. We've got just that narrow section in view and nothing more, so we've done that just right. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark the center of that, and I'm going to drill, I think it's a 1mm hole, I'll check Peter's notes, but I think it's a 1mm hole right in the center of that, but it won't go through, it'll just be through one side to the center. So I'll get this set up in the mill, and we'll get this done. I'm so pleased with how that's looking. Right, well, I've got this set up in the mill now just to do a centre spot, and then I can drill it out. And you can see I've got it in a collet block, and I've got some packing here just to take up the pressure if I just don't want it to bend, essentially. So we'll see if we can get this done. I think everything's clear of the collet. Yep. There we go, that'll do. Right, well, here we go. Got that drilled out now, lovely and central, really pleased, and as I said, just goes halfway. So I'm going to make sure this is really nice and clean now, and then we'll get it in the engine and see how it looks. Right, well, you can see there we've got the spray bar in the engine, in the Venturi, and it just looks right. To me, it looks the part. I'm pleased with how this has turned out, and you can see there I've put the hole pointing upwards, which is incorrect for the final engine. It should be pointing down into the engine, but I've just done that so you could see that it was right. Don't worry, it'll be right when it goes in for the final time. And we've got the nut on there. Now these bits of castings which I mentioned earlier, there is a spring that goes on there, and I think that is just to stop the spring rotating as you turn the thimble to adjust the mixture. But it's nice to get this done. It's taken a bit of time, it's very fiddly and very thin in the middle, but it's like I say, it's really nice to get it done. This engine deserves to look nice. It's a gorgeous engine. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed making this spray bar. I do find this kind of machining quite very rewarding, but also quite therapeutic. I think it's just that kind of concentration on such fine things. But anyway, I'm going to draw this video to a close now. And as I said earlier, I think I said earlier anyway, I'm not going to be making the needle in this video. I had hoped to, but there's the needle to make, there's a spring to make, and I just think it will make this video sort of 40-45 minutes long. So I'd rather do that as a separate video, which I will do, and I hope you'll come back and see that. I hope you found this one interesting as well, and really appreciate you watching. Thanks very much.